U.S. President Donald Trump says the war in Iran is nearly over. In an address last night, Trump said the U.S. has completed most of its goals. But the messages he delivered yesterday seemed to contradict themselves.
The country has been eviscerated and essentially is really no longer a threat. We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. The last thing I needed was NATO stepping in our way, because they're a paper tiger. But so we didn't need them, but I asked anyway. When this conflict is over, the strait will open up naturally. It'll just open up naturally. I mean, I want to see no nuclear weapon, but we also want regime change. Regime change was not our goal. We never said regime change, but regime change has occurred.
Joined now by Randa. She's the director of the Middle East program at the Stimson Center, a Washington-based think tank. And John Allen is the former Canadian ambassador to Israel. Welcome, both of you. John, I'm going to start with you. Trump attempted to sell his reasoning to keep the war going for another few weeks in his address last night. Did that speech offer you any clarity on his motivations here?
Not only did it not offer me any clarity, it didn't offer the American people any clarity. It didn't offer the markets any clarity. It must have confused everyone, including probably the Israelis. He's decimated everything, and he's going to be bombing for 2 to 3 weeks. All of a sudden, regime change is not an issue when that was the original purpose of them going and sending an armada there. And he all of a sudden is claiming that the straits are somehow going to open naturally after he's been telling his NATO allies that they had to get in there and open them. So it's totally bizarre, and you really have to begin to wonder what is going on, who's telling him what, and frankly, where are the Americans going now? It's quite frightening.
Randa, let's talk about the conflicting messages we heard. Trump said last night that never in the history of warfare has an enemy suffered such clear and devastating large-scale losses in a matter of weeks. How do we square Trump insisting the U.S. has devastated Iran while also insisting the war must continue for a few more weeks?
Because I don't think Trump knows what's going on. I think the circle around him has been feeding him the good stories, showing him the destruction that's being meted to bridges and industrial areas in Iran. But I don't think, and he's not interested in the nitty-gritty. He's not interested in the strategy. There has not been. This is a war looking for a strategy from the get-go. There's no strategy. So they can achieve tactical successes here and there, but it's not going to amount to too much. And as John said, so if Trump claims if what Trump says is true, which is basically the regime has already changed, the nuclear dust is underground, the Strait of Hormuz will open by itself. We have, destroyed most of their capacities, industrial missile launchers and all of this. So what is a deal with Iran going to be about? What do we want Iran to do and to concede, to agree to if our objectives have already been met? So there's no need for us to negotiate with Iran, and there is no need for us to get a deal because we have already succeeded in Trump's mind. But at the same time, you look at the action. There is the Trump talk, which is in one direction, and then there is the action of the US forces, 50,000 some troops that are heading or already are in the CENTCOM area. So it doesn't look like to me that this is going to de-escalate or it's going to wind down in 2 to 3 weeks. We are not going to put 50,000 plus extra troops in an area that's going to wind down in 2 to 3 weeks. And so it's confusing but it has been confusing from the get-go, from the first day of this war, because there has not been a strategy for this war.
John, let's talk about the effect of these changing goalposts? You know, it was about regime change. It's not about regime change. It is, but regime has changed. You have wanting help to have the strait opened, not needing help to get the strait open. We're in negotiations. They're saying that Iran is denying that. What do you make, or what should we do with these changing goalposts? Do we just have to sit back and watch and wait for us to finally figure out what this is all about?
Well, you know, the bottom line is, as Randa was suggesting, they started out without a strategy and without clear objectives. The situation as it is right now, with Donald Trump saying they've basically done it all, and the Israelis claiming, and the Americans, that they've hit 11,000 targets. The reality is that the strait is closed, and it was open before. The reality is that the regime is still in place, and it's probably more hard-line than it was before. The reality is that innocent Iranians are probably in worse shape now than they were before the war started. The ballistic missiles and the drones that were supposed to have been all decimated are still being fired. And so all of and uranium, of course, the enriched uranium is almost 1,000 grams of it is still in the ground. So we've had this war. World oil prices are sky high, fertilizer prices. In Asia, people are working 4-day work weeks. It's a complete disaster globally. War started by Donald Trump, and now he wants to walk away and blame everybody else. So I could just say one positive thing. His poll numbers are now the worst that they have ever been. He has had a terrible week overall with the Supreme Court, with firing his attorney general. So things are not looking good for Donald Trump, and I would have thought that he wanted to end this war and get over it, but he's still talking about 2 to 3 more weeks of bombing, which doesn't make any sense.
Randa, you mentioned what is there left to negotiate if according to Trump, all the conditions have been met. But we are hearing conflicting messages from both sides on whether these negotiations are really going on. He didn't really touch on it in his speech last night, so I'm wondering what that signals to you.
Well, you know, there was a meeting between the Chinese foreign minister and the Pakistani foreign minister, at the end of which a statement of principles for conflict resolution in this war was issued. There is this quartet led by Pakistan that's trying to lead a mediation of the conflict. I don't think the Iranians are ready yet to negotiate. I think they might be talking with the Pakistani's foreign minister, but I don't think they are ready to enter into a negotiation. The way they look at it is that they want to establish or re-establish deterrence with the Americans. And so for that to happen, they want the Americans, the American side, to incur a large economic cost. There is the threat of the ground war. I think they are planning for it. They are getting ready for it. As John said, the regime so far has proved to be fairly cohesive, fairly resilient. We are not seeing protests in the streets. In fact, there is a little bit more of rallying behind the flag because of this destruction that's being meted at them. And so they are not going to enter into negotiation until they feel that the other side is going to meet their conditions. And one of their principal conditions is going to be financial. They want basically, money to rebuild. And they are looking at the Americans, they are looking at the Gulfies to pay that money. And partly it could be done by lifting the sanctions. They are claiming they want reparation. I don't think this is going to be achievable, but sanctions could be lifted, and also tolls could be imposed on the ships passing the Strait of Hormuz. So we are entering, so the 2-3 weeks each side is going to test the other side's resolve. But it's very clear that Trump is getting bored with this war. He was expecting a Venezuela scenario, and lo and behold, Iran turned out to be different than Venezuela. So he's getting bored. He wants an end to it. But at the same time, he doesn't see how he's going to end it without losing face.
John, Trump urged his audience last night to keep this conflict in perspective, that's a quote, compared to how long the U.S. spent in other countries throughout history. I believe he even brought up the Vietnam War. What does history tell us about what we can expect if this war continues on longer?
He not only talked about the Vietnam War, if you can believe it, he talked about World War I and World War II. This was the president that came in saying he wanted no more forever wars. He didn't want any wars and criticized all his Democratic and Republican predecessors for engaging in war. So now he's in one. I don't expect that this war is going to last as long as Iraq, Afghanistan, or Vietnam. But the longer it lasts, the more trouble he's in. 70% of Americans now oppose any ground troops in Iran. So that's a signal to him that he probably wants to end this quickly. I think, as I suggested, he certainly didn't convince the markets by suggesting that this war was shorter than World War I or II. The markets, the world in general, want this war over as soon as possible, and hopefully Donald Trump will realize that if you're in a deep hole, what you don't want to do is keep digging, and that he should be moving within these 2 to 3 weeks towards some kind of declaration that the Americans have won the war and they're now stopping it.
Thank you both for your time. That's Randa and John Allen.